Welcome to Daily Dose of Knowledge. Today we talk about why people watch someone die and do nothing. In 1964, a woman named Kitty Genovese was stabbed outside her New York apartment building. The attack lasted over 30 minutes. 38 neighbors heard her screaming. Not one of them called the police. When investigators asked why, the answers were almost identical. They each assumed someone else had already called. This case became the foundation of one of the most disturbing discoveries in social psychology. Psychologists John Darley and Bibb Latané wanted to understand what happened that night. They designed an experiment called the bystander effect study. They staged an emergency in a room. Then they measured how quickly people helped based on how many others were present. When a person believed they were the only witness, they helped 85% of the time. When they believed 6 others were also watching, that number dropped to 31%. More people watching meant less help given. The presence of others did not create safety. It created paralysis. The first mechanism driving this is called diffusion of responsibility. When multiple people witness an emergency, the felt sense of personal responsibility is divided among the group. The more witnesses present, the smaller each person's share of the obligation to act. With 38 witnesses, each person's felt responsibility was essentially zero. The second mechanism is pluralistic ignorance. In an ambiguous situation, people look to others to determine how serious the emergency is. If nobody else is reacting, the individual concludes that nothing serious is happening. Every witness is looking at every other witness for guidance and finding the same calm inaction they themselves are performing. The group collectively convinces itself there is no emergency, while the emergency continues. The third mechanism is evaluation apprehension. People are afraid of looking foolish if they react dramatically to something minor. The fear of social embarrassment actively competes with the impulse to help. In a crowd, the cost of overreacting feels higher than the cost of underreacting. And so people do nothing, justified by the silence of everyone around them. Now let us talk about what the brain is doing during these moments. The amygdala fires a distress signal the moment a potential emergency is detected. But the prefrontal cortex immediately begins scanning the social environment for cues. In a crowd, those cues are overwhelmingly passive. Everyone standing, everyone watching, nobody moving. The prefrontal cortex interprets that passivity as information and overrides the amygdala's alarm. The brain that would have acted alone is suppressed into inaction by the presence of others. This is not cowardice. It is the brain's social architecture working in a situation it was never designed for. The bystander effect operates across age groups, cultures, and levels of education. It affects people who describe themselves as compassionate and morally serious. It affects trained professionals in contexts outside their training. The bystander effect does not select for bad people. It selects for crowds. Now let us talk about where it becomes most deadly. A collapsed person in a public space surrounded by onlookers, none of whom call for help. Workplace harassment witnessed by colleagues who each assume someone else will report it. Online abuse watched by thousands of viewers, none of whom intervene or report. Researchers found bystander inhibition operating identically online as in person. The digital crowd produces the same paralysis as the physical one. Now, let us talk about what breaks the effect. The single most effective intervention is direct personal assignment of responsibility. When a bystander is specifically identified, you in the red jacket call an ambulance. They act immediately. The diffusion of responsibility reverses the moment it becomes personal and specific. The second intervention is prior knowledge of the effect itself. People who understand the bystander effect are significantly more likely to act during a crowd emergency. Knowing the mechanism creates enough distance to override it. The third intervention is the first mover. Once one person acts, others follow rapidly. The first person to move breaks the pluralistic ignorance. They signal to the crowd that this is real. That action is appropriate. That acting is survivable. One person acting is worth more than 38 people watching. In any crowd where something is going wrong, the calculation is this. If not you, then statistically, no one. The bystander effect is a social mechanism that runs automatically in all of us. The only defense against it is knowing it exists. and choosing in the moment to be the one who moves first. If this gave you something real, subscribe to Daily Dose of Knowledge and drop a comment with what you would do differently now. Explore our videos on psychology, human behavior, self-help, science, history, relationships, and the forces shaping modern life. There is always something here that will shift the way you think.